Welcome back everyone to an exciting episode of CBD American Shaman, True Story. We are here with the founder and CEO of CBD American Shaman, Vince Sanders. Vince, thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Vince, can you please tell us what is the true story of why CBD American Shaman? How did it start? What was the beginning for you?
So the beginning was in early 2012. My uncle, who was more like an older brother to me, was diagnosed with 4-stage lung cancer, and they gave him basically 6 months to live. They said, hey, we're going to do everything humanly possible, but you need to kind of prepare yourself and your family because 90% of the people with 4-stage lung cancer are gone in 6 months.
Yes.
So I didn't like that,
right,
obviously, and I was just determined to find some way to reverse it or extend his life until some new breakthrough came or whatever I was going to do. I assumed, you always hear stories about things that the FDA hasn't approved that you can get in Europe or Mexico or wherever. So that's what I just immediately started gluing myself to Google searches trying to find this magic substance, right?
Absolutely.
And I quickly realized there was no magic substance. There just wasn't anything. What was interesting is that looking back is at the time, the very first things that were coming up was cannabis, all kinds of cannabis. I'm like, yeah, okay, right. Marijuana, pot cures cancer, sure, okay, keep moving. But really after a couple of months and just desperation because he was fading so fast, I started reading the cannabis.
Yes.
And what I realized is, wow, there's a ton of science here. And it's not pot, it's this cannabinoid called CBD.
Yes.
And lots of studies been done in Israel and Spain specifically on lung cancer.
Absolutely.
With great results. So I'm like, wow, here's something maybe, right? So we're here in Kansas City, Midwest. Yes. We grew lots of hemp here for centuries. In fact, just north of here, 45 minutes, is Weston, Missouri, which was the largest county throughout the 1800s for hemp growing, in the entire United States. So we have lots of wild hemp, ditchweed, whatever word you want to use.
Absolutely.
So I knew that natural hemp, based on my research, was where you'd find CBD, not in marijuana. It's been bred for centuries to be higher and higher in THC, and it does that at the cost of the other cannabinoids that it produces. So I literally just started asking anybody I could think of, hey, I need some ditchweed. And people, if it gets you high, I don't want it. People be like, what? And I'm like, look, here's the deal. And they'd humor me, but I didn't honestly expect for it to come through. But literally within a few weeks, I had more than I'd ever need. There was plenty. So I made a crude concoction. We literally just ground it up in a food processor, agitated it in ethanol, and then strained the plant material. Took that ethanol on a rice steamer and on low heat, evaporated off the alcohol. And what was left is like a black tar-ish looking product. It didn't smell or taste very good, but we would put it in a pile with a credit card and pull it into syringes. And we had no way of testing, or honestly, no one was there. We knew it wasn't anything that was going to hurt him, but I had no idea what the percentage of CBD or anything else was in there. He would carry them in his pockets and literally all day long, especially after a few weeks, once he got used to it, he could take it pretty often. Early on, pretty rough. But he just started taking large amounts of it every day, throughout the day. And he was doing body scans every month so they could evaluate, is the chemo we're using working, is the radiation working? And he had been declining very rapidly. And the first 30 days that he did our crude concoction, they were like, wow, great news. There was no growth this month.
Wow.
Yeah, we're like super excited. We're thinking that's, the hemp extract, but who knew? And we're just happy.
Absolutely.
But he continued, the large doses and with, the chemo and radiation, all the normal things. But 60 days in, the cancer was in major retreat. It was no longer in his brain. It was died off in his bones. His the tumors shrinking rapidly. And at that point, we were just like, oh my God, we're going to turn this thing around.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the third month, essentially, he had no cancer. It wasn't there. We're like,
amazing.
Amazing. More than amazing, right? You're just, praying. You're so lucky. And he continued, therapy in these monthly MRIs. Unfortunately, he, during one of these MRIs, even though he was at the time cancer-free, he got a staph infection because he had no immunity.
Yes.
And died within 2 weeks of sepsis.
Well, I'm sorry that was the ending, but it was an amazing beginning to such an amazing product. And truly, I know that your uncle, his spirit is with us all. He is very proud of what you have accomplished and what you are doing here, not only for the people in Kansas City, Missouri, but for the rest of the world. And truly, that's an amazing thing.
Yep, and I like to think that. And as you know, we have the cancer programs and things like specifically for that reason. We're here because of that.
Absolutely.
This was no planned business by any stretch.
And that's what this is all about. It's truly about helping people and getting a product in the hands of people that many people do not even know exist, or is it the availability of it.
Yep.
But this created in a very safe, clean, wonderful environment that I understand that you are going to be gracious enough to give us an inside tour. We're going to be able to look around at some things. Thank you very much, Vince. This is amazing. I appreciate you sharing your story. We look forward to getting this tour coming up. Thank you guys. Stay tuned with us.
Welcome to the American Shaman Factory Tour. We're standing in front of line 1. This is a turntable where you place your empty bottles, and as it turns, it will feed these bottles onto the conveyor, which then they'll travel to the filler. The filler will stop and fill 8 bottles at a time. A cool feature about this that you generally won't see on filling lines is the manner of pump that we use. This is a diastolic pump, which works just like an IV drip. So it's accurate within 1/100th of a gram or milliliter. So whatever we set it on is what's going in the bottle. The neater feature is the sterility. So as we fill, rather than have to disassemble pumps and sterilize them each and every time we do a run, you simply release that, you'll take a new tube, put it in there, close it, and continue on. So once they're filled, the bottle is capped, travels down here, and the cap is tightened. It'll travel on down the line to where it's labeled. The label has a date code, batch code, and QR code that you can scan with your phone to a third-party batch test so that you know exactly what's in this product. From there, it has a security sleeve placed on here. It travels through the shrink, which is basically an oven that shrinks that security sleeve, and is gathered here on the turntable at the end. There, a packer will take it and place it in tubs and then take that to quality control. Quality control will then look at the fill level and the label, make sure that it's the correct label, the label's on there straight, date and batch codes match to what they should, as well as the QR code. They'll also randomly open a bottle and make sure that if it says it's cherry limeade, that it is cherry limeade. At that point, it gets an approved sticker and we'll move into shipping. And to our left, you'll notice we have a lot of ladies here doing assorted hand packaging. We make 180 different SKUs, so there's always a lot of stuff that needs dealt with at any given moment. Leaving the fill line, you'll walk into shipping. Shipping is here, as well as on around. Orders generally are packaged and shipped within a couple of hours of receiving them. We're here even on Saturdays. UPS picks up 3 times a day, morning, midday, and late evening. And if we have anything extra, they'll even come back at 7:30 and pick up one last time. We generally fill about 3 UPS trucks a day. And through here is line 2. Now line 2 is very similar to line 1. You'll notice it's in a horseshoe shape. That's simply because of the length. It would not fit in the space otherwise. The difference is this is a pneumatic filler. So we can put thicker liquids through there. Although not as accurate, it's still very accurate. And we can do body lotions and VG clouds, that type of thing. It can be filled from this unit. So they're filled there, capped here, security sleeve, travels through the oven. Printer labeler is here with your QR code, date, and batch code. And then it travels here where it's picked up and taken to quality control. To our left, we've put together assorted packaging from kitty nugs to sample packets that looks like face lotion going on right now. So in here is where we make our anchor products, the Nano room. Welcome, follow me. What you have here is a nano sonicator, and what happens, you'll put your distillate here with water, oils, and surfactants, and you will blend it homogeneous, at which point we'll turn on a pneumatic pump, which will pump that through here, where it's exposed to pressures over 100,000 psi. That's like a hand grenade going off. And what happens there is it breaks the oil down into smaller and smaller pieces. Now the surfactants will surround that oil. One end, it's basically two tails. One tail attaches to the oil, the other to the water around it. And that's how we keep the nano emulsion constantly separate, so it's not going to break back out in oil and water. As we know, the oil and water don't mix. So every time it travels through here, it's broken down smaller and smaller. You're looking at roughly, for a 60-liter batch, about 2.5 hours of processing. Oils, like people, are natural products, so they break down at slightly different rates. We have a particle size analyzer that we will use throughout the process to dial in. We have kind of a Goldilocks zone that we like our particle size to be, and that's around 50 to 55 nanometers. Once we hit that spot, we turn it off. The reason we do that is science suggests it's smaller than that, and it's very possibly too small, and it literally passes directly through the cell receptor. A lot of people ask, why is nanotechnology so important? The reason it's so important is lipids, or oils, are very poorly absorbed by the human body. If you were to take a natural tincture and place it under your tongue for 90 seconds, you would absorb about 10% of that tincture. Meaning, if you took 100 milligrams under your tongue, only 10 will get in your blood. Science tells us that when we break a particle size down into the nanometer range that we do, around 50 nanometers, that your body simply can't stop it from absorbing. So now we're getting close to 100% absorption. We recently completed a liver toxicity test with 7 other CBD companies to support that liver enzymes are not increased with CBD, which we proved and handed that report into the FDA. But more importantly, we were the only nano product there. And as it showed, that we were 7.5 times more potent than the regular oils that people were taking. So our average consumer was taking 7.6 milligrams, and normal oil products, they were taking 54 milligrams to see the same type of results. When a particle is this small, you're actually smaller than most viruses. I think at this point in time, we all know how contagious viruses are because your body can't stop them from getting in. So when you drink something that's a 50 nanometer range, it goes directly through the cell walls of your stomach and into your bloodstream. So onset is within minutes. It is also far more bioavailable, meaning much more of it gets in. Also, an interesting fact is you increase the surface area thousands of times. What does that mean? That means we have more CBD particles floating around your bloodstream to work within your endocannabinoid system. You have hundreds of thousands of receptors. The more CBD balls we have, the more contact and the more effect we will get. To kind of conceptualize that, picture a basketball full of BBs sitting in the middle of your kitchen floor. You can picture the room the basketball would take up. Now picture that basketball breaking open and those BBs spilling across your kitchen floor. That generally is what's happening. We're taking this large lipid ball and breaking it down thousands of times into tiny balls, or those BBs that cover much more surface area. As we're walking in here, this is where we make capsules and sample packets. Capsule machine isn't running right now, but there's a pot that has a vacuum that it pulled. The gelatin capsules are filled here, dropped through there and tumbled, collected on these trays, and then allowed to air dry for about 2 days to fully shrink to their normal size that would be retailed. And then it goes to quality control in the lab where they're tested before bottling. To the left of me is the packet machine running. I believe we're running face lotion right now. Makes thousands an hour, just all automatic. Just turn it on and let it roll. All right, follow me. The next stop's the lab. This is where we do all our formulations, testing, and particle size analysis on the particle size analyzer that we talked about earlier. Jade lead chemist is here. Looks like she's weighing out a test sample. This is an HPLC. This will tell us our cannabinoid content, whatever it is we're trying to dial in, or what our distillate is that we're starting with. Without knowing the percentage of the starting material, we can't really formulate a product. You can do terpene testings and some solvent testing on this. Our particle size analyzer is just behind you in the corner there. You have another HPLC here. And that's what he's doing, is a particle size analysis right there. So this room is where we'll do all of the testing from beginning to end, starting with the distillate to know what percentage and what combination of cannabinoids we're working with, because we can custom blend those. We can bring up the CBD, the CBC, the CBG, CBN, whatever we're trying to dial it into. From there, we'll test the middle while the product is being made in the batch, and then the final product comes in here with each batch, where we test it and make sure that it's accurate. Of course, we do send off to a third-party lab to ensure that everything we're doing is accurate. And from there, that sample goes into a retain that's held for 3 years. And that completes the true story of the Shaman way.